Hello, and thanks for stopping by. Today we'll be discussing the topic why I love Linux. The first reason I love Linux is because it's customizable. Without Linux, I wouldn't be able to have a dynamic window manager, and I really wouldn't be able to make all these transitions happen if it wasn't for something like PyCom, for example. I wouldn't be able to customize my workspaces like I have, and I wouldn't have been able to have had these widgets up here either. Some other things I wouldn't be able to have is transparency on my windows and rounded corners. I also wouldn't be able to customize my font if it wasn't for Linux. You see, I'm dyslexic and I use Open Dyslexic as my font, and I use it everywhere that I can, including my phone. So for me, it's essential to have an operating system at this point that allows me to customize my font, and Linux does that for me. And you can also do things like customize your icons. You can even customize right down to your cursor. Basically, if you can think it, you can change it. The second reason I love Linux is because my workflow has gotten better since switching from Windows to Linux. For most of my life, I've been a Windows user, but for the past 3 years, I've been a Linux user. And yeah, I started with something like Windows, which had a lot of bloat, but then I went to GNOME, where I would say is less bloat, because there were a lot of things that were very useful to me when I was using GNOME, including the apps and the extensions. But then I went even more minimal in my workflow, to the point where I'm using a dynamic window manager. It made my workflow more minimal, because I realized that there were things that I didn't need on my system that I could get rid of. The third reason I love Linux is because I can choose to update my system whenever I want to. I mean, if you're on Arch, you're going to be updating at least every 2 weeks anyway. But what I mean is that I'm not being forced by my operating system to update whenever it feels like. It updates whenever I feel like updating it. And being on Debian, I check for updates at least every 2 weeks. But it's not like I have to update right away. I don't ever have to update, or I can update as much as I want. I have the freedom to choose when to update. The fourth reason I love Linux is because there's some things that Linux can do better than other OSs. Some of these things include handling applications, handling terminal commands, having a better file system, and microphone loopback. In terms of handling applications, it's a lot easier for your distribution to handle your applications for you, rather than having to go download a file and manually install your file. Although you can compile your software, but I don't enjoy compiling. In terms of handling terminal commands, it is a lot easier using FFmpeg on Linux than it is Windows. In terms of the file system, it's better because of your home directory. It's just more organized, and you're able to have all your configuration files alongside of your documents and whatever other files you may have. And in terms of microphone loopback, I can hear myself and talk without any latency issues. And that's important for me because oftentimes I'm working with my headphones on and I can't hear myself, and I need to be able to hear myself while I'm wearing my headphones. The fifth reason I love Linux is because it gives me a reason to code. One of the things I love to do is programming. I've worked anywhere from HTML to CSS to JavaScript to Lua. I've even dabbled a little bit in Python. But it gives me a reason to do something that I love to do, because there's always a reason to code something. Like if I want to do further customizations, I can code it. If I wanted to develop an application for Linux, I could code it. If I wanted to design a Discord bot, I could code it. And generally, it just makes it a lot easier to do it on Linux than it does on any other OS. It kind of goes along with my second reason, which was about my workflow being better. Because of my workflow, coding has gotten a lot easier over the years, and it's made it much more enjoyable for me. The sixth reason I love Linux is because my machine runs faster and better. And it runs faster and better because it's minimal and not so bloated. I noticed that my CPU is a lot less, and so is my RAM. My file system is even smaller on Linux than it is on other operating systems. And the last reason I love Linux is because it's free. Not just that it's free as in open source, but that it's free as in price. And it's not entirely true in terms of all projects, because something like Ardour or Reaper will cost you money even though it's open source. But for me, something that is free as in price is something that I need. But I try to go for as much open source stuff as I possibly can. I can't always escape that though. Like for example, my music program. I use FL Studio, but it's making it really difficult to go to something like LMMS because it's missing things that I use in FL Studio every day. And now we have come full circle. If you guys enjoyed this video, make sure to hit that like and subscribe, and I shall see you guys in the next video.